Hello and welcome to World Today, your weekly dose of all-important international stories. We begin with a crucial election that took place in the Indian neighborhood. Nepal went to polls on the 20th of November. Now, political instability has left Nepal with 13 different governments in the past 16 years. While the Nepali Congress has emerged as the single largest party, with incumbent Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba set to stay for a sixth term, what we will focus on in this episode are the fresh faces this election and a real demand for change.
This is the old guard versus the new guard. Nepal went to polls with the ruling alliance set to form government again, but the new entrants in Nepal's politics are set to change the political landscape of the country. There are more than 2,400 candidates who stood in the 165 directly elected seats, of which more than 800 were running as independents to seek the support of 18 million voters from 7 provinces. An online campaign called No, Not Again gained traction, a campaign against traditional political parties and the old guard of Nepal. The political instability is one of the major reasons why people were looking for change. While the young and new faces, mostly representing the Nepal's Independent Party or Rashtriya Swatantra Party, look confident of making a good start and possibly entering a government alliance should their demands be met, were being dismissed by politicians from the traditional parties. Nepalis have seen little change since, with the same generation of leaders holding power through their control of the main political parties. Many voters say they are tired of the same leaders retaining power and failing to deliver on promises to improve people's lives while the country makes a little progress.
My expectation with the upcoming government is not much. The main problem of Nepalese leader is the corruption actually. There should be zero tolerance in the corruption.
Expect the government, the newly government, is to focus on tourism, because we have a really good nature and we are rich in natural resources. So a lot of tourists are coming after COVID. That was not expected after the COVID.
In fact, many have called RSP's leader Rabi Lamichhane the Arvind Kejriwal of Nepal. His party leadership admitted to incorporating the Aam Aadmi Party manifesto in their party manifesto this election.
We have, when we are forming parties, we have studied lots of parties we have studied documents of many parties, both inside Nepal and outside Nepal. And during the process, being neighbor to India, we definitely observed Aam Aadmi Party very closely. And we are very impressed by the actions of Arvind Kejriwal. And since we are also against the anti-corruption thing and establishing a meritocracy system in the country, our agendas were very much similar to Aam Aadmi Party. And definitely, yes, we are were very influenced by the documents of Aam Aadmi Party.
The frequent changes and squabbles among parties have been blamed for a slow economy. Nepal's current Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba, now 76 years of age, has been in the position of Prime Minister 5 times. Both prominent leaders of the Communist parties, 67-year-old Pushpa Kamal Dahal or Prachanda and 70-year-old KP Oli, have been Prime Minister twice each. Meanwhile, Nepal's population is young. Nearly half of the population is 16 to 40 years of age. While the counting and formation of government could take a while, the next government will face a plethora of challenges, from providing a stable political administration, reviving the tourism industry, tackling dwindling economy, corruption, unemployment, to the strategic challenges of being sandwiched between two Asian giants, India and China. Bureau Report, India Today.
On Spotlight this weekend, joining me from Kathmandu, Nepal, is Dr. Arnico Pandey. He's the Central Committee member of Rashtriya Swatantra Party. Many thanks for joining us here on India Today, Dr. Pandey. The fact that we know Deuba is poised to form the government once again, but there are fresh faces, there are new faces this time around. Certainly, the people of Nepal sending out a clear signal and message that they want change.
Thank you for having me. There has been a frustration among the general public in Nepal with the current generation of leaders, many of whom are 3 times the median age of the Nepali population, a decade or two older than our retirement age. And there's a sense of growing corruption, mismanagement, cartels. There's been a lot of mismanagement during COVID, and our economy is depending more and more on the export of our youth, export of our future, and just that we cannot grow a country that's based on remittance income while separating families. So the last year has seen this emergence of young independent mayors across the country who have joined many of us to join mainstream politics. I myself am from a science background, from an academic background, later working in international climate policy, and I'm not the usual kind of politicians. And there's many of us this year who decided that it's time to jump in and to make a difference.
Well,
Nepal has a growing class of professionals, of global citizens, well-traveled people who have seen the world elsewhere, who are frustrated with things both in Nepal, also with a sense of the extent of interference by our adjoining neighbors, and we just want to bring about change for Nepal.
Well, there's nothing usual about the Rashtriya Swatantra Party in its composition. Most of them are highly educated, know what they want, are the faces of young Nepal. Tell us a little more about Rabi Lamichhane, a prominent face now in Nepal politics, likened to Arvind Kejriwal here in India. How much of the manifesto of Aam Aadmi Party was incorporated in your party manifesto? And do you see a future where people are going to look at a more socialistic agenda-based political parties?
Well, so Rabi Lamichhane, our party chair, he comes from a media background. He was a television anchor of a popular program that focused on fighting for downtrodden people, fighting for justice, and he was quite a celebrity even before he entered politics. And he's very much the crowd puller in our party, but surrounding him with a large team of professionals who are working various aspects about how to bring about change. You asked about our manifesto. I was actually chairing the drafting of our party's manifesto, and we focused on crowdsourcing thoughts and ideas, both from experts around the country through various consultation meetings, as well as from party members and others from around the country, and then kind of synthesizing that into a vision for a new Nepal, focusing on which of Nepal's problems and issues need priority in addressing.
And what about the likening of Rabi Lamichhane to Arvind Kejriwal of India, or the Aam Aadmi Party and your party?
Well, I guess everyone connects people to what they're already familiar with, and so I do recall once in our manifesto meeting, a colleague of mine flashed up the Aam Aadmi Party manifesto on our screen. And I have to admit, I don't understand Hindi, so I didn't read it. I only recently discovered that there's an English version of it as well. Obviously, many of the problems in the Delhi region and in Nepal are common. There's similar issues to address, and often the obvious solutions are similar. No one here in Nepal compares Rabi to Arvind Kejriwal. We've of course heard of Arvind sometimes. Rabi is now a national politician. We're the 4th largest party, and I guess there is enough chance for Arvind one day to be like Rabi as well.
Oh, that's a nice one. But before I let you go, Dr. Pandey, we do know that there are conversations, consultations that are underway and taking place with regards to joining a government or not. Should your party be a part of any form of government in Nepal, what would the conditions be?
Well, we've been saying publicly several times now that we got elected in order to get things done. And obviously being in the government is easier to get things done than if we're just in the opposition. But we're only willing to join a coalition if the conditions are right, and there's the right team of participants in there, the right leadership, and also a mutually agreeable common set of priorities. So for us, that's job creation, rule of law, end of corruption. So we don't want people with a long record of corruption to be on our team running the country. Absentee voting so that the overseas Nepalis will also be able to vote. Moving towards universal health care, improving access to quality education, making our cities more livable, better preparation for disasters, better preparation for climate change and other future challenges. And so I think if we're given the right circumstances, yes, we might be willing to join a coalition, but at the moment, there's all kinds of conversations going on and still too early to predict what will happen.
Too early to predict, but only wishing and hoping the best, not just for your party, but for Nepal. Thank you so much for joining us here on World Today.
Thank you so much for having me.
The current global energy crisis has made most nations to look to the Arab world and strengthen ties with the biggest suppliers of the world when it comes to oil and gas. The latest high-level visit to Saudi Arabia was that of Chinese President Xi Jinping, underscoring the constantly growing importance of Sino-Saudi relations and a clear message from Saudi Arabia that it will not take diktats from the United States. Khashoggi trial in the States has made ties between the two nations, that is the United States of America and Saudi Arabia, rather strained, and Beijing is losing no time to engage Riyadh. In today's Cold War 2.0, not only will Saudi Arabia refuse to choose sides, but it's also likely to move closer to Beijing and Moscow.
The third international visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping and his first since 2016 to Saudi Arabia. Xi's car arrived at Al Yamama Palace, where he was welcomed by Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the kingdom's de facto head. A grand welcome which stood in stark contrast to the low-key welcome extended in July to US President Joe Biden, with whom ties have been strained by Saudi energy policy and the 2018 murder of Jamal Khashoggi that had overshadowed the awkward visit. A concerned America warned of China's growing influence in the region.
We are not asking countries around the world to choose between us and any other country. We are seeking to give countries around the world choices. And we are speaking affirmatively about the choice that the United States presents to partners around the world, including to important partners in the Middle East. When it comes to the Middle East, integrating the defensive capabilities that are so important, so vital to many of our partners across the Middle East than the United States. These are issues that we speak to our Middle Eastern partners about regularly, and we'll continue to have those discussions about how we can work together in all of those areas.
The visit of President Xi Jinping to Saudi Arabia, by warning that China's attempt to spread influence worldwide is not conducive to international order. Chinese leader Xi Jinping held landmark talks with Saudi Arabia's King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Riyadh, with both sides inking agreements worth $29.6 billion. Such agreements will add to trade, business and investment relations between the two countries that have greatly deepened in recent years. Xi also met with other Gulf Arab leaders during his Saudi visit to revive a Chinese economy battered by its strict coronavirus measures. During the visit, Xi attended the inaugural China-Arab State Summit and a meeting of the Gulf Cooperation Council, which includes the kingdom along with Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar and the United Arab Emirates.
President Xi Jinping's attendance at the first China-Arab Summit is the largest and highest-level diplomatic event between China and the Arab world since the founding of the PRC, and will become an epoch-making milestone in the history of China-Arab relations.
China is Saudi Arabia's top crude oil market, accounting for more than 25% of all Saudi crude oil exports in 2021. These earnings are extremely important for Saudi Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia's grandeur economic diversification agenda, including with respect to the futuristic city of Neom, which is currently being built. The Belt and Road Initiative, Xi's signature infrastructure investment project, dovetailed with Saudi plans to diversify its economy under its Vision 2030. Russia's war on Ukraine and the West's hardening stance on Moscow has left the Arab countries wanting to cement ties with China, despite Saudi Arabia being an important ally of the United States.
Now, football may be miles behind cricket in terms of popularity in India, but that hasn't stopped Indians from heading over to Qatar to enjoy the FIFA World Cup. In fact, according to official data, Indians make up the second largest fan contingent to have arrived in Qatar, ahead of countries like England, Brazil and Argentina, nations that are football mad and also have teams in the competition. So what are the factors that have contributed to Indians traveling to watch the biggest global sporting tournament in the world? We bring you a detailed report from Qatar.
आपके दिल में तो इंडिया है, वो तो हमने सामने ही देख लिया है। रोनाल्डो को कितना ज्यादा सपोर्ट करेंगे? एकदम पूरा रोनाल्डो को सपोर्ट करेंगे। इंडिया के लिए तो कोई बात ही नहीं है, ये फ्लैग तो फिर सबसे बढ़िया है। लेकिन ये है ना कि उधर में ये तो लिवरपूल है, इधर से लिवरपूल है। भारत माता की
Scenes like these are not uncommon in Qatar. So what if there is no Indian team at the FIFA World Cup? The Indian flag can be seen everywhere, whether it's inside the stadiums or outside.
My whole stand, I would say 50% were like foreigners. There were some Brazilians, there were some Moroccans, but I would say 50% were Indians and Pakistanis. And we all are cheering for Ronaldo. So you can see how the love of the game is. I mean, I feel it was a tremendous experience. You can't have this experience on TV.
Of course, the predominant faction has been the Saudis, who are a neighboring country and are coming in by road. But after that, Indians are the most in terms of volume and numbers. So, like, I think 25% have been Saudi fans, but after that it's been Indian fans who are coming in, and we're seeing it at every game.
Take the Shankars for example, a family of doctors from Jaipur. They've been lifelong football fans, but Qatar 2022 happens to be their first FIFA World Cup experience.
I've been a lifelong FIFA fan. I've lifelong been a football buff, a big time. And the earliest and the fondest memory that I had was with my father watching Brazil in the final and Ronaldo shooting the goals. And so this is just like a dream come true. So we got a chance, and so here we are.
One of the major reasons for the influx of the Indian football fans at the World Cup in Qatar has been the proximity factor.
When we heard about it in Qatar, of course this is our chance, because that's closest, for us to come and, see the last World Cup for especially Messi.
In spite of being doctors and very busy schedule, so we thought it's the right time. It was so nearby and it was a pocket-friendly event as well. We can't afford to go to Europe, so it was a fine place. So we came down here.
It's not just the football fans coming in from India. The Indian workforce in Qatar is the highest from any country and have majorly contributed in the successful hosting of the World Cup. Whether it's the construction of the 7 newly built stadiums or the back-end support, like the Indian-owned Lulu Group, the biggest retailers in the Middle East, that has imported a wide variety of food into Qatar to cater to the varied demands of people from all over the globe visiting for the World Cup.
Look at every element of this FIFA preparation. Two things are reflected. One is the huge participation of Indians in every sector, be it fan zones, businesses, construction of the stadium or anything, and also the generosity of the Qatari population to be more inclusive, keeping us and making us part of the whole preparation now.
So the running joke in footballing circles is that even though this tournament is called Qatar 2022, this effectively is the first FIFA World Cup that India is hosting. That's because not only do Indians make up the maximum amount of workforce, people that are working behind the scenes to make this event a success, but also in terms of fans coming in, Indian fans are right up there when compared to the rest of the globe. So even though the Indian team may not be playing here, the Indian tricolour is still flying high. in Doha, Qatar with Anuj Shukla, Nikhil Naz for India Today.
And here's a look at all the top stories from across the world in World at a Glance.
Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky marked the country's Armed Forces Day by traveling to the Donetsk region. He awarded the troops deployed there with war medals. This in the wake of Time magazine naming Zelensky as its Person of the Year. In a deadly suicide attack, a man blew himself up outside a police station on Indonesia's main island of Java. At least 3 officers were injured in the blast. Indonesia has battled terrorism since bombing on the resort island of Bali in 2002. Many people in American island of state of Hawaii are bracing for major upheaval if lava from Mauna Loa volcano slides across a key highway and blocks the quickest route connecting 2 sides of the main island. The molten rock could make the road impassable and force drivers to find alternative coastal routes. Pakistan's new Army Chief General Asim Munir has said that the service he now leads will not only defend every inch of our motherland, but to take the fight back to the enemy if it were attacked. During his visit to the front line, General Munir was briefed on the latest situation along the LOC and operational preparedness of the formation deployed there.
That's all in this edition of World Today, but before I go, I leave you with visuals from China of state television channels over there playing the Qatar FIFA World Cup with spectators' faces completely blurred out. Why? Because Xi Jinping does not want the people of China to see maskless people at a time when China is going through the toughest lockdown regulations.